Hello, Patriots. I'm Lee Watts, and this is Patriot Point, your source for Kentucky news and analysis from a conservative, Christian, and common sense point of view. Well, it seems the Beshear administration has misplaced hundreds of millions of dollars. And where has the money gone? Well, I'm glad you asked. This is the same type question that Kentucky State Auditor Allison Ball is asking the Beshear administration. She's like, you did what with the money? The state auditor actually did her job and audited the books, and her report exposes how the Beshear administration has been mishandling great amounts of your tax money. How much tax money, you might ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. The Auditor's Ball report shows that the Beshear administration, under the Department of Medicare Services, has wasted a whopping $836 million. This is not pocket change, people. How did the Beshear administration waste so much of your money? Well, I'm glad you asked. This is how they did that. Again, this is the Department of Medicare Services is where this has gone wrong. First of all, they've been paying the same bill 2 or 3 times or more. So someone goes and they have a test done, so the government pays for that test to be done, and then they pay for it again, and they pay for it again, and sometimes many more times. That's part of the problem. Another one of the problems that Auditor Ball cited in her report is that the Beshear administration under this department has failed to keep ineligible people from collecting benefits. I tell you, that's the nice way of saying, hey, the Beshear administration is letting a bunch of illegal aliens collect hundreds of millions of dollars in benefits that should have been going to Kentuckians. Yeah, I wonder if we actually didn't give them the money, we probably have a lot more money for the Kentucky citizens who actually need and are entitled to these type things. The Kentucky State Auditor's report also found a problem with the Beshear administration is because the same Social Security number was being used by multiple people to collect benefits. Again, if you're actually a citizen who's eligible for this, you'd use your own Social Security number. So we're seeing this is a system that the illegal invaders. I have no problem with immigrants. I have a problem with invaders. These invaders are about collecting hundreds of millions of dollars that should have been used for Kentucky citizens. They're all doing it illegally, and Kentucky State Auditor Allison Ball has pointed it out. Good for her. But one of the reasons I really like Auditor Ball is that she doesn't just say, hey, here's the problem. She also has the solution at the same time. What did Beshear offer as a solution? Well, the Beshear administration's solution is to hire 50 more bureaucrats for this department. This is not what Auditor Ball suggested. She put in her report that she suggests that the state of Kentucky start using the system that is used by Massachusetts. It's a system that screens for if there's going to be a double payment and will stop the double or triple payments, that will scan for people using the same Social Security number for multiple people, and will verify the eligibility of people who are receiving benefits before those benefits are paid out. So she pointed out the problem, but she also offered a solution at the same time. So Auditor Ball is not happy with Beshear is doing right now, but not to be outdone, Beshear is also not happy right now, and he's not happy with what President Trump is doing. So he is suing President Trump again. Yes, he never wins these lawsuits, but he loves to file them. Do you remember when Beshear used to be Attorney General? He would sue Governor Bevin, I think, almost every single week. When it comes to like lawsuits and mandates, I think Beshear feels this way.
These are a few of my favorite things.
Yes, filing lawsuits seems to be one of Beshear's favorite things. This is really a tactic that the Democrats use quite a lot. When they can't win at the voting booth and they can't win in the law-making process, then they just bypass the electoral process, they'll bypass the legislative process, and they'll just take it to a single judge and try to get the judge to throw out what both the people and their elected representatives have made law. So why is Beshear suing President Trump this time? Well, it's because of a policy change that has to do with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, known as HUD. President Trump is making changes. He says, hey, some of the money is being misused, and I don't want to keep funding that. This is the exact opposite of what Beshear is doing, where he's misusing funds and wants to keep doing those things. The Beshear administration is giving away $800 million of government money, while the Trump administration is trying to cut the spending of government money for programs. The person who is in charge of HUD for the Trump administration is a guy by the name of Scott Turner. He's the Secretary of HUD. And he has detailed these policy changes that Trump is doing, which are the things that Andy Beshear is suing him for. Here are some of these changes. Secretary Turner said that this new policy is going to put a stop to, quote, the Biden-era slush fund that fueled the homelessness crisis, end quote. There was all this money that was supposed to be spent to help people who are homeless. Well, it turns out it's not being spent for that. The problems got worse. So where did all the money go? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's being set up in these systems that funnel money from what it's supposed to go to the Democratic Party. And have you noticed as President Trump is cutting off this slush fund money to these government programs, misusing it, that all of a sudden the Democratic Party is going broke? Why, it's almost as if the Democrats had set up these government programs as shams to really funnel money back to their own party. And now that they're being cut off, the Democratic Party is going broke. Could be. Well, this money is now being turned off, and Andy's mad about that, so he's suing President Trump about it. Secretary Turner of HUD also said that this is going to be making changes to loosening restrictions that are put upon faith-based providers. Right now, churches and other religious organizations have a lot of restrictions on them that really stop them from helping people who are facing homelessness. These policy changes are going to loose those restrictions and allow churches and other faith-based groups to actually provide more assistance in this era. And finally, Secretary Turner of HUD emphasized these changes are going to put an end to the Biden-era policy that incentivized never-ending government dependency. It's kind of like President Reagan said. He said, the best social program is a job. That's correct. Instead of just getting a government handout, let's train these people to get jobs. President Reagan also said we should measure welfare's success not by how many people are on it, but by how many people leave the program. And there you see a big difference between the Trump and Reagan administration policies and the policy of Andy Beshear. And I guess when Andy Beshear sues President Trump, my guess is this is the way President Trump feels about that. Well, before we sign off this week, I have an assignment for you. In the coming weeks and months, I'm going to be interviewing those people who are running to replace Mitch McConnell as Kentucky's next senator. So as I sit down with them, I want to find out what questions you want to know the answers to. So put the questions that you would like to have me ask these candidates into the comment section. And as I interview the different candidates, I want to go through these questions, and we're going to ask them some direct questions. I'm going to be courteous, but I'm not going to let them dance around the issues. I want to nail them down to actually get an answer to the questions that you want to hear Kentucky. So put those questions in the comments, and we'll look forward to asking those in the coming weeks and months. Well, before we sign off, we are now into the Christmas season of the year. So I want to put a short plug in for two of the books that I've written. One of them is Quest of the Dragon's Princess. It's an adventure rom-com. If you like the movie The Princess Bride, you'll really like this. And the other one is War of the Realms, a science fiction adventure that says, when patriots are labeled as outlaws, it's time for a revolution. Both these books are available in paperback and now also as audiobooks. You can find them on Amazon or at audible.com. Well, that's the news we have for this week, Patriots. So until next week, I'm Lee Watts for Patriot Point, reminding you that liberty is not a spectator sport.